Now we will have to draw the details that we see in the inside of this t-shirt. So here as well, I think I probably would prefer to make this into a slightly curved detail. So for this, I'm using the pen tool. Just click somewhere here in the middle and start dragging it up. And then we can turn this into a smooth point. Just click on the icon on the top and then let's drag it up. Now, another technique for doing this would be, if I go back and just remove this point that I added, to use the curvature tool instead of the pen tool, because the curvature tool by default is going to create a smooth point. So now that I added that, if I start moving this around, as you can see, it automatically is a smooth point. So you don't have to worry about the handles. I'm just going to set it up somewhere around there. I would like to have the same detail as I see it here. Even though I didn't have that on my sketch, I feel like that's going to help to make it a bit more interesting. I feel like this shape could be adjusted a bit later, but for now I'm happy with it. So I'm going to draw another shape here. Again, I'm going to actually align this shape with the original detail that I have. So I'm going to click on that anchor point with the pen tool to create a new shape. And I'm going to click and drag to align it. And this original point will have to also be curved. So I will get back to that once we reach it. First, I'm just going to change the color just so we can see it's a different detail. And I'm going to click and drag. Actually, on this side, doesn't really matter. But we definitely need another handle that's going to define this curve here. So I'm using the pen tool and I hold down Alt or Option key and drag this handle out and adjust it until I get just the right angle on the left side. I feel like that is looking good. Yeah. Now, this shape, of course, can go behind the other detail. So I can use the Command left square bracket key on the keyboard, which will move it down in the layers panel. So I'm just showing you this technique. The Command key or Control key with the square bracket keys on the keyboard, you can just move them up and down very quickly. And there it is below it. So that looks fine. I will change the color of this to something different. But for now, we can just use this. And of course, I'm going to draw additional details here. So I'm going to fix that later. But I don't worry about this because I'm going to overlap them. So let's just draw also the details for the sleeves. So for this, you can either use an ellipse and try to align it, or again, use the way that we've done before, using the pen tool and then click. And then in this case, I will click and drag here in the middle and then click at the end point and then just close it up like that. It doesn't really matter what you do in the inside, because once again, we will move this behind the other shape. So that was the Command or Control key and then square brackets to push it in the back. And the same thing we can do here on the other side. So I'm just using the pen tool, click and drag, and click, and then draw this shape, and then Command Control square brackets to move it back. All right, so that is looking good. Now we will need to draw, obviously, all the additional details around here. So now we can concentrate on the shapes that will make up the skin, like the head, neck, arms, and the waist. Let's start with the waist. That's the easiest one. We just need to draw a shape here with the pen tool. This can be a bit curved, the back, and then come down and then close it up right there. Now this skin tone is the color I already prepared as a swatch, and again move it back a bit like that. So that's ready. And then moving on, let's do her head. Now for the head, I am probably going to use the curvature tool, and I will actually use the outline of the ear together with the face. And because this is going to be in front of the hair, at least the ear has to be in front, I'm going to define the shape that way. So I will click up here, click, click, and click, and click again. And then here I need a corner point, so I'm going to double click on this point. So that is going to allow me to start a new angle. I will click a couple of times. I'm just looking at the curve of the face. I think here we can just go all the way up already and then align it up there. I think maybe if I step back one step, I can go all the way up here, or we can just align it down here at the bottom like that. Again, double click because we are changing direction, and then click and click. All right, so that is looking good. Now the only detail that I need to fix is right here. I'm using the direct selection tool now, dragging that detail a little bit in. That looks good. And then I'm just selecting the hair, and I'm going to drag this point down a bit further just to make sure that we get that overlap there that we needed. And I'm just going to check the rest of the detail. And I actually noticed that the hair needs to be on top of the t-shirt, so that comes in front of the t-shirt here. So I'm going to select both the head and the hair and use Command or Control Shift square bracket to drag it all the way to the top. So that's also something, by the way, you can use from the right click, arrange, bring to front if you are not familiar with the shortcuts. And that is looking good already. That's exactly the shape I wanted here. Maybe the hair can be adjusted a little bit more. I'm just probably going to add an additional anchor point there. And then using the direct selection tool, I can even use the arrow keys on the keyboard to drag this in place and then align it a bit further around there and there. Okay, looks good. The head looks great. Now we can draw the neck. For the neck, we can just do a very simple shape starting from here. I'm just going to draw pretty much a rectangle like that. I will set this to, again, the skin color. And then this, of course, will need to go back there below the hair. But then we will have to align this to this line here. So one thing you can do is to very quickly take off what you don't need, is use the eraser tool. And then with the eraser, you can just drag down and then you get the shape that you need. For this, of course, make sure you have that shape selected first before you erase from it. And if you still need to refine it a little bit more, you can just drag points around if you wanted to. I'm going to keep it the way it was. And lastly, this little detail here is supposed to be skin tone 2. And for this, I'm actually going to draw an ellipse. So I'm just drawing the ellipse and then holding down the space bar, I can align it, something like that. And then use a rotate feature, that's R on the keyboard, to align it up there. And then this can go under the hair, just simply arrange the layers accordingly. And we got those details in place. So that is looking good. Now, before I forget, we have a little detail for the hair here. For this, again, I can use the ellipse tool. Since we already had that one selected, I'm just going to draw it like that, align it, distort it a bit, and also just drag this detail out. Now I'm using the eyedropper tool, that's I on the keyboard to get the tool quickly, and then click on that shape above. Now sometimes it doesn't work because you have the sketch layer turned on. So if you turn that off, you will be able to sample with the tool. Just going to bring back that layer. And then of course, this hair detail needs to go behind the head. So again, I just did the alignment there.